Hey, for Monday, October 26th, 2020, this is the one and only Pro and Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. So this show is the countdown to the last show. I have 9 shows, including this show, left through November 3rd. And of course, the purpose of the show is to encourage people to be better citizens, be open to opposing views, and especially information that doesn't necessarily, the actual factual information, the who, the what, the where, and the when, that doesn't necessarily align with the way you think, the way you want things to be, but that doesn't change the fact that those things exist, okay? And all of us, all 340 million of us roughly in this country, we all are different, and we all have different opinions on different things. Some of us have no opinion at all because we have no information on certain issues. But there's a bunch of us that have opinions, and those opinions depend on the walk in that person's life. What path have they taken to get where they are today? And actually, the reality is that my path and what I've seen and observed and the information that I have can be markedly different than someone else, and that very often, almost always, well, not almost always, but very, very often is the main reason why we have major differences in how we think we should approach a particular issue. So I spent a few shows talking about abortion, and I brought up that topic because Amy Coney Barrett was being examined by the Senate for approval for the taking this seat on the Supreme Court, and that has occurred. Okay, so she is a new member of the Supreme Court, and she generally is thought of as a conservative. She's let's see here, she'll be 48 years old here pretty soon. Actually 49 pretty soon. No. Let's see here, in 2022, she'll be 50, so she'll be 48 here pretty soon. She's 48 now. She's 48 now, she'll be 49 pretty soon. I was right in the beginning. Anyway, doesn't matter. She's in her late 40s. And she has had a very remarkable legal career. And she's a college professor at some well-known universities and things like this. But definitely generally thought of as a conservative. And the only thing that we can hope, see, the problem is that I know there's people, so-called conservatives, or members of the Republican Party for, in a sense of part, that, want a so-called conservative bench on the Supreme Court, especially when it comes to things like immigration and abortion and gun rights and some other things like that. Well, the problem is you want to be careful, and I've mentioned this in past shows, you want to be careful about that court and having it too leaning in a particular direction, because really the Supreme Court should be a reflection of the original law of the Constitution as it was originally written, but then plus changes in society that have been caused by our changes in our views. And for example, when the Constitution was first written, for various reasons, what we now refer to as African Americans, at that time they were just slaves that had been kidnapped basically and brought to America as slaves. They were not thought of as human beings, and they would only count, I want to say 2/3 of their count would count toward apportioning representation in the government by us white folk who actually got to vote and stuff like that. White men, by the way, women could not vote. And so these things clearly, and again, sadly, some small percentage of this country still probably believes, well, some small percentage certainly does believe, that Black Americans are not actually human. They are still subhuman people, or subhuman creatures. But thankfully, the vast majority of us now, in my view, correctly perceive that African Americans or people of color are just the same as white people. Just we're all the same. Other than we all look different, but fundamentally we're the same. We bleed the same blood. We share 99% of our DNA. On and on and on. We're the same. We just have different hair, different skin colors, different eye color, different shapes of our faces and stuff like that. But that's humanity. Anyway, so the whole point being that you need to, and it feels to me like it is appropriate that the jurists, the people on Supreme Court, would, one, be scholars of the law, and she apparently seems to be that, and scholars of the Constitution, and scholars of how the Constitution or the interpretation of the Constitution has changed over time. And then the best jurists would not just automatically, come to some conclusion based on foregone or past experiences. They would, every new issue, everything that was brought to them, they would reevaluate everything in the light of the most current information, which is the entire historical record up until that point, plus the latest societal norms and things like that. This whole thing should be taken into consideration. And in fact, Justice Roberts, who is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, even though he was appointed as a conservative, and he has definitely been more conservative than liberal, if you will, in the traditional sense. He certainly also has, I think, been very much that unbiased or unbiased, inappropriately biased by his past or past thinking. He's looked at these issues one by one and weighed them on their own merits in the total perspective of history. And, so I'm reading, it's a Wikipedia, someone has posted this information on Amy Coney Barrett, and it's got many, many citations. But it would seem as though she will at least do that she is going to not automatically fall into a particular camp, but will be looking at every single case brought before the court in the context of both the origins of the Constitution and also the ongoing shifts in its interpretation. And again, some shifts in interpretation are absolutely appropriate. Again, Black men and women are humans. They should be equal in every way to the rest of us that don't quite look the same as they do, because we all look different. And that shouldn't make me, worse than or better than anybody else. The other thing that I do hope kind of comes into play for her is that she, in her personal life, there's a couple of things that are true for her. So she has 7 children, and that's a good-sized family. And 2 of them were adopted from Haiti. So 2 of them are actually people of color. And so I think that me personally, I look at that and I say that this is something that, because I think in the end, the best jurists, at least in my mind, again, are going to weigh each case in the whole across the historical record, including the latest interpretations and the latest shifts in society or societal belief. And that takes someone that's very intelligent, which she certainly seems to be, and someone who is going to weigh these cases on an individual basis, again, taking in the entire spectrum of the history, and someone that looks at the law not only as the law, but also with this kind of humanistic or compassionate kind of side to it. So the law is the law, but the law is for the people. And so liberal judges would have a tendency to kind of go toward this more compassionate thing for individuals. Conservatives would be a little bit more towards just what's the letter of the law kind of thing. And this person that would be in the middle, which would be, like I say, Justice Roberts appears to be one of these people, where there's you're not quite sure how they're going to come down on a particular case, because they are doing this refreshed evaluation every time they take up a case. And she also, on the compassion side, their youngest child has Down syndrome. And so she has 7 children. 2 of them are children of color that they voluntarily, willfully adopted, which is great. They adopted them from Haiti. So they're trying to save some of these kids from a life that would be quite stressful and challenging, and then also having a child with Down syndrome. So from the standpoint of her personal experiences and in her own home, I think it says that she could easily be not this hyper conservative, as even though she's a Catholic and a devout Catholic, she may not be this hyper conservative that a lot of the people think that they're getting through her appointment. She may be a much more fair and unbiased jurist on this panel, and I certainly hope so, because again, one of the main problems that we have with the two-party system and everything is you get into these, and the way that the Senate, because the Constitution is mute on the whole thing of how these appointments actually are ratified within the Senate and stuff like that. So the Senate had rules at one time where they had to have a supermajority to affirm a justice, and then along the way they changed that to only a simple majority, and then they changed that so that simple majority applies to all judges and stuff like that. And so that basically says that a political party that's in power, which is one more than 50-50 in the Senate, they can, and the Republican Party has, basically run many conservative judges into various judgeships. And it feels like Ms. Barrett is actually, to me, probably not that bad of a choice, and certainly well qualified, whereas many of the other district judges or whatever appellate judges that have been appointed, many of them were jokes. They were completely unqualified. So at least this person seems to be more than adequately qualified for the position. And like I say, with her history, I'm hoping that she ends up being an unbiased and fairly centrist jurist, even though I think a lot of people believe that she's going to be kind of an extreme conservative. Okay, so for the Pro and Con Show, this is me, Michael James Ott. I'm your host, and until the next show, bye for now.